Rev up your engines! Okay, you heard of singing in the rain? Well, Scotty's fixing in the rain. We got a Jeep that isn't running right. Let's start it up. Now, the only thing is airbag. That has nothing to do with it running. But he said, sometimes the check engine light comes on, sometimes the check engine light comes off. And as we can see, it's a relatively high mileage. It's got 142,000 miles on it. And I can feel it jiggling. So it is running off. Older Jeep, a lot of miles, but it's a V8 engine. And those are pretty solid V8 engines. Let's get out the old scan tool. I don't care that the check engine light's off now and he said it comes on, goes off. That doesn't mean anything with my fancy scan tool. You know the drill. We're looking for the data port. There it is. We'll plug it in. And now it's going to turn itself on. And we'll turn on the think tool itself and hook it all up. And when I say intelligent diagnosis, it's not joking around. Realize your VIN is very vehicle specific. Vehicle identification number, right? It gives this computer all kinds of information. It's not just some generic plug it in, oh, it's a 2006 Jeep, blah, blah. No, the computer's interfacing and getting a lot of information already with a smart scan. Round and around and around they go. It's kind of like a roulette wheel. Now I can feel it jiggling and misfiring. So that's what we're going to concentrate on. This is an older Jeep, 142,000 miles. I'm sure it's going to have all kinds of wacky electronic codes, door locks, who knows. We don't care about that. We care about things that make it run bad. Okay, you see a lot of green, but we'll start with the body control module because that controls a lot. Door data is ignition, run, start, input circuit performance. Got some kind of an electrical problem going on. Let's read the fault code. We'll check the information. Turns out what we care about is the B2100. But this doesn't mean it's running bad because of that. That code means that the driver's entry lock system isn't working correctly and it didn't go. That isn't going to make the car not run right. As you can see, clickers to lock and unlock the car, so you can use that if that key doesn't work right. That has nothing to do with it not running right. Back to the drawing board. Let's go to a PCM that controls everything. So let's read the data stream. We're gonna look at everything. Now the long-term adaptation, bank 1 is 9, 8, 10. You can see that's moving around. And the bank 2 long-term adaptation is 8%. We'll go back up to the bank 1, 10.16. We'll go quick back down here, 8. So it's running a little bit leaner on the one side than the other. But on an old vehicle like this, heck, 2% difference doesn't mean all that much. But we know it's running lean because it's adding fuel, 8 and 10%. But since it's only 8 to 10%, it's not going to trip a code. It's got to be 15, 20% or more, or 25 before it's going to trip a code. So we know it's running a little bit lean, but not enough to trip any codes. Now the fuel pressure is within binds. That's good, 49, 50, 52. It's old, it'll vacillate a little, but that's good fuel pressure. That's the advantage of a later model car like this. It's still new enough, it's got a lot of data. We don't have to put a fuel pressure gauge on this thing. It's giving us a fuel pressure, which is a big advantage to find out where problems come from. You can see when I rev it up, the base spark is advancing, but watch what happens when we're idling. It's way too far advanced. That can make it run lean. This engine has a lot of mileage. Now you can see in the picture, it's a very complex setup. You have a timing chain that goes to one cam, another one that goes to the other, and then another chain that goes from the crankshaft to this intermediate shaft. There's all kinds of chain. And of course, chains age, they stretch. This isn't just one chain. This is 3 separate chains. And at least one of them is pretty well worn to make the timing be that far off. The only thing that can really do that is one or maybe all 3 of these chains have stretched. It is a phenomenally expensive job to replace them all. And if you just guessed one versus the other, it would be foolhardy. You'd have to change them all. Now we know it's not a fuel related problem because the pressure's 50 psi. That's perfectly fine. Now I noticed something interesting here. This is a flex fuel vehicle. It's 67% ethanol. He uses it all the time. Throws another monkey wrench into it. Now it shows the ethanol mode is active, so it shows the system's working. But here, we see the idle air control current is way too high. Shouldn't be more than 1,000. We're going to try an idle air control valve. That's the advantage of these good machines. You immediately see it's red, so you know there's a problem. It's pulling way too much current. The max is 1,000. 3,600. So we're going to change that first. But let's look at more data. There might be more red things. This is a Jeep. Well, I've gone through them all. There's no more red. So let's get that sensor. So let's put on the gloves and get to operating. We got us what hopefully will be the correct control valve. And we'll take it apart. Unscrew a few things. Unplug a few things. Unbolt a few things. Don't forget the other side. There's one on each side. It's just as tight as the other side too. I can't turn it with my bare hand, so. Now I can. 4,000 twists later. Okay, now there's a clamp in the back too. Now it should come off. Hooray! Now you know the knuckleheads hold it in with a tiny little screw. This is a Torx TP20. And that's the only way you're ever gonna get this thing out. You gotta go buy that tool. And once you unscrew it, of course it's 50 miles long too. Man, they got carried away with themselves. I would have made it half as long. This thing is insane. It's still got threads left. I don't want to drop it though. Finally, they didn't need to make it that long. It just pulls out. Well, out with the screwdriver. It's not pulling out. A little nudge in the screwdriver, it pulls out. And always check everything closely. Here's the new one, but look, the gasket's ripped. We'll use the old one over. It's a good gasket, but always check. They make these things sometimes like crap. Guys whip them on. This one's ripped. We're gonna swap it over. So we'll put the other O-ring on. There it goes. And as you can see clearly, here's the one it came with. Look at it. It's torn. So much for quality control these days. As you can see, they only go in one way. And we stick the bolt in. Of course it doesn't line up, so you gotta turn it. That's too far. Turn it the other way until it lines up. You don't want to cross thread, so take your time. Seems like it's going in now. Do it by hand. Because if you put an air tool, you got to cross thread it, you got a giant mess. You can see it's going in now. Then we'll tighten it up. Nice and snug. And don't forget to snap it back on. It's on, and that locks it. Now it can't come off. Then we just put all the pieces back on. You can see that fits over there. You gotta wiggle it on. And we bolt the sides in, both sides. Now don't forget to put everything in, plug everything back, put all the hoses back on. And tighten all the clamps. You don't want loose air. Make sure everything's clamped down tight. So take it for a spin. We'll start her up. And of course while I'm driving, I'm recording all the memory too. I'm gonna make a little data stream. And I've also reset the memory to factory settings. So now it's gonna relearn everything the correct way, and it will get rid of all the old data that was bad since it wasn't working right and using too much power. Now this Jeep might have 142,000 miles on it, but when we step on the gas, it's still got some power. You can hear that engine humming. And notice even with the AC on, it's not shaking anymore. Now, if you have any electronic device hooked up to the computer that's using way too much power, God knows what kind of feedback you're gonna get. It is insane. And it can cause all kinds of problems. So not like that Jeep that was driving too fast. Keep your wits about you when you are driving in the rain. Although this is four-wheel drive, it handles pretty good in the rain. Now, even though the timing chain is a little bit stretched now, look, it's not shaking at all. With a big old V8 engine like this, it can compensate for a lot of stuff. I also reset all the parameters to original factory parameters, so it's gonna be able to modify things better for the bit that's worn. And it's running so much better now. And look at the fuel adaptation. Look at how much better it is. Minus 0.0, adding 2 or 4 a little bit, not like it was before. It's already getting closer to zero. It's actually going minus and plus. So it's vacillating very close to zero instead of being stuck at adding fuel all the time. Now, as you can see, it hasn't changed the spark advance really. So it had nothing to do with that. The timing chain is still worn. As you can see, we rev it up, goes back to normal. But that one part doing the strain, affecting the computer system, fuel adaptation is much closer to zero. In this case, it's definitely fixed it. Now, the Jeep dealer told him he needed another engine for $3,000 something. But thanks to our Think tool here and the tent that kept us out of the rain, we fixed this thing with the $75 part from AutoZone, the idle air control valve. So, you might poo-poo the cost of this expensive scan tool. Hey, I'm in love with it, let me tell you. It can figure things out that fast just by looking. It was red. Aha, there's red data. You know that data's bad. You gotta have these things with modern cars. This especially. This isn't just the normal craziness. This is a flex fuel car too, so it can use anything from 0 to 85% ethanol. We're really in complex territory then. So, it's running like a clock, and he didn't have to buy a $3,500 engine, just a $75 part from AutoZone. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.